Hi, Scott.
Hey,
Hey.
sounds good.
All right. Cool. Let me take my jacket off here. What's up, Andy?
Hey, what's going on, Steve? Scott?
All right. The whole gang's here. The
Yeah.
whole Tuesday gang. Liking these earlier hours a lot better. Hope everybody had a good holiday weekend. It was a nice break from a lot of things to just kind of chill out and watch football. But here we are for the Tuesday trade of the week. And I'm going to get into a few things today, but first, just the reminder that we always do. It keeps the attorneys happy. We're presenting to you today, as content providers. We've got some ideas, and we're going to showcase some cool technology, but it should not be construed as investment advice. We're not registered. We're not licensed. So please don't construe anything you see or hear in here as investment advice. If you need that, there's plenty of professionals out there who will take your money and charge you a fee. You're not alone with trade ideas. We always continue to hammer on this slide because we're very proud of it. We have Barry in the trading room each day. Over 500 people were in there again today. First hour is usually really interesting. There's a lot of good stuff that they're onto in that room. But it's a way for people to come and kind of kick the tires and peek their head in, so to speak, and check out trade ideas and see the room. Free is a great price. There's a lot of rooms out there that charge money, and we've been hearing from a lot of people, gee, I wish I'd found this room earlier, sooner, because I don't have to pay for those other rooms because I'm getting just as good a value here. So we're real proud of the growth and the way Barry moderates that room and does a great job. And then you've got 4 webinars every week, this one included. We've simplified our webinar schedule. It's basically now 5 p.m. Eastern, one on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The Wednesday is more geared towards technical questions, Q&A. It's Dan and Brad, the Dan and Brad show. And then Thursday is Andy takes over and has Jamie riding shotgun. So we try and keep the content flowing and keep you guys engaged. Additionally, the one-on-one, if you're thinking about getting trade ideas, we do not offer a subscription, but you can wait until next January when we do our open house. An open house 4 times a year where we give you guys 1 week to try all the cool tools and get a great feel for it. But between now and then, what most people do is just subscribe to the basic month that Scott's going to give you a promo code for discount to, and then quickly take advantage of that one-on-one training because the one-on-one training really gets you up to speed quickly. The feedback we get is always great. Like, thank you so much. I was really kind of intimidated, but now I've got a real good plan on what I need to do. We'll share some of our scans. We'll basically spend an hour with you doing whatever it is you feel you need help with. So because of all those things, the trade ideas, this is the subscription growth. Trade ideas introduces AI technology, but I know that our customer service and our onboarding concierge is certainly helping keeping people engaged and keeping the good word getting out, and we're very proud of that slide. Just a quick update on Holly. This is, again, our proprietary back-end graph. I think next year we'll have some sort of more publicly facing interactive type stuff. But for now, she's still in basic test mode. We're trying to get to about 1 year's worth of data under our skin, and we'll get to there at the end of December. But this is how we're looking compared to the S&P. Just a slow, steady climb, and that's what we hope to see. That's what's called giving yourself the casino's edge. In the long run, you've got the edge. Today's agenda, we'll do as we always do, a little market recap and look at the 4 different indexes and try and get some ideas of where the leadership is. It was a rather not too slow day, but not a real busy day either for Holly on the recap. We had both long and shorts, and we'll highlight a few things there as well. The trade of the week, which is the title of our webinar. This particular week we'll explain why we chose INVN, and we'll explain why we chose it to be a triggered trade, and we'll get to that. And by the way, it has not triggered. And then I really like this, what's working. Traders need to constantly be reassessing what's working and what's not, because the worst thing you can do, like an example of the shippers that I discussed last week, the worst thing you can do is make money a couple days on the first run up, but then before you know it, you're on the backside and you're bidding into something and you're constantly taking losses, and you're not recognizing, is what I'm saying, that is no longer working. So I always try and find a way to try and help keep people focused on what's working. I do have a few setups that we'll share and we'll mark up today. And that's that. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I think for those of you that were in last night's webinar, we had a couple of decent movers today. Blue and BOFI, I think, and Akamai were a couple of decent ones that triggered. So, that was from last night. We've got some more to look at today. But let's get started by pulling out our big old spiders daily chart. There's the big picture, zooming in. Talked yesterday a little bit with Jamie about how this line is still significant. This was still significant resistance, and then support, and then resistance again, and congestion again, and then we broke through it. Did not spend much time at all in no man's land, went right through all-time highs, and that's where we were. But everything has to have a breather, has to have a rest. Would not be surprised to see the S&P maybe even come back and just get as close as it can to maybe tagging this line. If it doesn't, well, then that tells you this market's even stronger than we thought. When they don't come back and touch the typical areas, the moving averages or the gaps or the areas that you think they might want to pull back to, that's a real sign of strength. Just like I've said in the past, consolidating over time, going sideways is a much stronger continuation scenario than pulling way back and retesting past areas. Let's look at the diamonds, because the Dow is what has been leading us, and very impressive today. Actually, it moved higher today when we had the S&P basically lower, and let's look at the IWM. This was leading the way, but got a bit ahead of itself and has given some back here. But I'm drawing these lines here as possible short-term pullback levels. These are the areas from which we broke out, and these are the levels that could be a level of support if the selling continues and bounces back in. But on the diamonds, they didn't really show much of an interest in doing that today. So what we could do is we could just be moving sideways above these levels. The Qs are still kind of a mess. The NASDAQ never really went to new highs like everything else did, but it's staying above this support line, which is good, but just kind of a messy no man's land in here. The Dow and the industrials and the construction and industrials, that's where still the flavor seems to be, the interest is anyway. But I drew these lines. Each one of these orange lines could be, like I said, a possible pullback scenario. If it doesn't pull back to these lines respectively, then what we have on our hands is a runaway market that is just going to be hard to bid into. You got any thoughts, Andy?
No, I agree with everything that you just said. I will say this: if these markets, especially the Dow and the spiders and the IWM, if they continue higher, I think you could be looking at a potential explosive moves. If you go back to the Qs and kind of scroll out and look at a longer-term picture, they are potentially could break out above that level here, and could have a nice move. So if you have some tech stocks that you've been kind of eyeballing, yeah, sure, not far from it. Got close today. It got only, I think, about 20 cents from it today.
And I think what we can do is turn our crosshairs off and grab this guy, because he's no longer relevant. But these three lines still are relevant as our trading levels. Okay.
Exactly.
I'll buy that.
So, but you could
just wow.
Go ahead.
I'm impressive. I just can't remember the last time the Dow was this much in favor. It's just really goofy. Really goofy.
It really is. You have a lot of people betting on infrastructure and just your industrial stocks. That
so much so. It's funny you say that. So much so. Matter of fact, let me just do this. This is a great habit to do, guys. Before you leave, I probably made some changes to my layout. I prefer to use my default layout, but look at what we got. Barry and the guys said, hey, there is so much stuff going on in infrastructure plays right now. We created an infrastructure channel. So, on staying on top of the pulse of what's working and what's hot and what's leadership, I think a decent little channel was put together with some names that are going to be components of those types of things. So if you haven't seen that new channel yet, you can check that out for sure. So,
well, they got that together pretty quick.
Yep. Well, hey, when we're motivated, we can move quickly. All right, so back to the default layout. This is where I choose to keep everything, as you guys know. Some of the stuff is minimized, some of the stuff is not, especially like this sector analysis. I always talk to people. I look at this in the morning, get a quick glance of what's going on, oil and gas, gold weak, airlines, healthcare strong, great. minimize it. That's all I really need to do. I don't need to take up a bunch of desk space to get that. And by the way, if you don't realize, that is something that was stolen. Stolen is probably a harsh word, but taken and borrowed from the sector channel. I basically went to that channel. I found that alert. I right-clicked into that alert and said save to cloud, and then brought it back into my main mix of my default layout here. So you guys can do that with any of these channels. You can go in there, and if there's something that you like, and you don't like going from channel to channel or going from layout to channel and having to load your layout again and save your layout, because every time you do leave this layout and go to a channel, you are going to lose any configurations or changes you made. So in my world, it's just simplest to keep saving and just keep using the default layout. If there's something you like to borrow on the channel bar, go in there and grab it, right-click, and save it to the cloud.
And you know what, Steve, that's a really good point, because I was in a session today helping somebody, getting started, and I looked in there, and he had like 4 or 5 default. Yeah, I'm going like, really, there's only one default that you need to use, because the software is programmed to open and close it on the major default layout. So if you're trying to use, you're going to have to go in there each time you open it and go to your file and search under your server and find the default layout that you're using. Just always use the default layout as your main screen, and it's very simple.
Yeah, it just keeps it a lot more simple.
It really does.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I was looking at a couple of these washout bounces, but we'll get to those later. All right, let's start with Holly AI recap today. If you look at the histogram, it was a rather quiet day, very quiet in the middle of the day, and then we had the power hour short came out, and we'll highlight that trade, but we actually had a trade hit here today that's target hit. $1 target hit, but we'll back up and kind of give you the bigger picture of all that. But nonetheless, it was a very statistically noisy day. Never really got far away from the zero line until the close. Now, the power hour short, let's just get right into this here, because this is something Andy and I were talking about we wanted to really hone home. Let's look at the AI parent window, all right? Now, if you want to launch one of these windows, all you got to do is just, of course, right-click and click View All Trades, and you can make as many of these windows as you want. Right now, we've got them on closed. You could have one on open, one on closed, or whatever. But it all starts at the parent window. The first thing I look at, sometimes in the evening if I'm up late, or in the morning, is I come in and say, what does Holly have on tap for us today? Now, really, the easiest way to try and sort these, and you can sort every single column, would be to go to the win percentage and the profit factor. So you can sort and then double click. All right. So today what stands out is something, if you've been watching Holly for a month or so, we rarely see strategies that come through testing in the 81 percentile. Not only that, we rarely see stocks that have above a 5 or a 6 profit factor. This thing has a 25, that's not a typo, 25.5 profit factor. So this on support last night was really killing it in terms of the back testing and the configurations that the AI was putting into it. And if we take a look today, we actually had 5 trades at 80% win rate. Pretty amazing how it kind of came in there so close. But nonetheless, this did generate some nice alpha today. And we'll go through and look at a couple of these trades and talk about why we like them. The power hour short, tested at 75% with a 4.25 profit factor. Came in, blasted off 3 trades at the close, because I'll show you the power hour long and the power hour short, they have market filters. This is the last hour of the market. And for the power hour short, we have to have an S&P that has at least a 10-minute or a 15-minute red candle. So that is really the go-ahead market filter trigger that let the 3 power hour shorts fire today. Opposite on the other end, the power hour longs, you're going to need a green candle, so we call those market filters, like I said. Yeah, as the market got real weak into the final hour, Holly took advantage of it. After making making most of the trades long during the day, it's always nice to see just something flip on a dime without any emotion and fire off those trades that were 75% with a 4% profit factor. So the takeaway is, for some of the newer people that ask, how do I use the AI? It's kind of overbearing. There's a lot of stuff going on. And first thing I'll tell you is we are reworking it. There's going to be a brand new way of looking at Holly. I won't give a time frame because I don't know what that's going to be, but it's going to be a much more simpler, focused, less grid and seek and destroy type stuff. but gosh, I lost the train of thought. Where was I?
You were talking about how you can configure your strategies down in the AI, the trades. I don't know. I
Yeah.
thought yeah.
Yeah. People ask me, how do you use this? So when it comes out of the gate, one of the first things we can do is sort, and we can say, well, these are not great scores. They barely made the cut, and how'd they do today? Not too well. This one had a couple trades actually work, but as you guys can see, today is kind of shaping up the way it should be. The lower performing trades with the less win percentage are kind of down here. They didn't score as well, but the ones that did score as well pretty much made up the meat of the bulk of the day today. So with that being said, is what you guys can do is just something simple. If you're trying to simplify things, you could come in and say, well, let's just cut these strategies in half. Everything above this, maybe I'll follow. And if that's the case and you want to do that and you want to follow these ones that are up here and discard these ones down here, then what you're going to want to do is use the filtering strategy. So we can go in and say on support is there, of course. Bouncers is in there. Power hour short was in there. Bullish pullback was in there. And what am I missing? Mighty Mouse. So those ones tested pretty strong. And let me go to open. So what I would do is I would select those 5 strategies coming into the day before the day even starts. And now you guys are kind of filtering out the stuff that didn't score as well. It's just a thought. It's just an idea for people who are trying to simplify things. It doesn't hurt to maybe focus on the stuff that did score better in the evening. So that's how you can use the filtering and the sorting mechanism to try and see really coming into the day which strategies have the hot hand and the best chance, for some good alpha. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I do. And not only that, guys. There's some strategies. I'm telling, just in my personal opinion, that I just feel more comfortable with. I really love to own support because I can look at those strategies and I know I have a low risk reward. So in other words, I can look at a lot of those trades and I'll know how the support is stacking up. How the trade is. And not only that, I just really like being a contrarian at times, and on support is a contrarian
yes.
alert.
What does he mean by contrarian, real quick? See,
sure.
You guys see the blue candle down here? It broke through, made lows of the day, but Holly, the AI, said that's the statistical spot to jump in. Now, our brains and eyes are not exactly wired to want to do that. But in this case, it was a great buy because look left, as we say. Look at how it was breaking out of a nice little consolidation level there. So this was not only a wonderful entry, but a pretty decent daily chart too. So again, if you guys are not looking at the daily charts, it's very important to do so because you could see something that's statistically good in here, but Holly is not really looking back so much on the chart. It's a bit more up to us to eyeball the levels of interest, and so it's kind of a hybrid cyborg exercise here. But in this case, that was very obvious. Let's take a look at another entry. And again, Andy said contrarian entry. So here was a lot of noise on the open, a lot of noise back and forth, broke down below that level, and then as it traded right here, this orange line was again a contrarian entry. Picking up the stock as it's pulling down and getting ready to make new lows, when most people might think, hey, it's going to follow through, this might be a short. The AI knows and would not take this trade if it was not statistically viable. What's on support? What did that test at last night? Oh, that's right. Yeah, 81%. I forgot that was the same one. Yeah, real quickly, I'll be happy to explain risk on, risk off. It's basically, look at it as this. Risk off is exiting the trade with Holly. We all get the same entry price, and that's where the value is on Holly, is the entry, the idea of the entry. But on the exit is really subjective. It can come down to your decision, or if you just want to follow the robot, the AI blind, you would go in the risk off mode. And I'll tell you, lately, the last few days, risk off's been working better. It's been kind of a choppy market, no real major big directions, just kind of a nice trend, slow, narrow range trend going up, pulling back and going up. And so the risk off has been working a little better, taking the quick exits on the quick Holly exits. But there's going to come a day where either on the short side or the long side, we have one big, broad-based rally or a broad-based sell-off. That's going to be the risk on day, where you see at the end of the day. And by the way, yes, risk on is calculated all the way up until the end of the day. So in this case, high water, HW, basically, Holly took 15 cents because the profit save right here is a way of looking at what we call like a trailing stop. Now, if you've been watching Holly, this profit save is on a hair trigger. I mean, once she gets up 15, 16, 20 cents, the profit save algorithm kind of kicks in and will not allow that trade to roll over and go negative. So a lot of times we see pretty decent trades that moved on for the rest of the day, just like in this case, but Holly got out early on a profit save. We'll take another look at this one. This one provided some alpha during the day, but it looks like it just kind of got caught up. So kind of a washy one on that one. And what's this last one? ALE. Basically, Holly did the profit save on this one. Got in right about here. Just kind of went sideways, and then as soon as it started to look like it was going to go red, the trade was exited. So that was the correct one on that one. Let me go back to all trades. And I want to highlight something. Profit save, profit save, profit save. Again, and let's look at the entry. 15 cents versus 81. 12 versus 45. 10 cents versus 44. Now I'm just using these three as the top three as an example of one, risk off versus risk on, and two, profit save. Once again, what I've noticed, and maybe some of you guys have as well, is the Holly trades that she gets into, if they go profit save, it seems like more often than not, they just kind of continue in the same direction. I mean, this is a very, very hair trigger conservative sell stop, trailing sell stop, to lock in a green trade. And what I'm noticing is it's not always the best idea. I mean, if you're a more aggressive trader, I wouldn't pay much attention to the profit save. Maybe see if you can milk out a little bit more, or if the trade starts to go back to zero or flat, then maybe you could consider getting out. The ones that we do want to pay attention to, yeah, stop hit. We want to pay attention to those. 47 cents, Holly said enough. That was it. It went down another 98 cents or a buck. Stop hit 25 cents. It continued down more, 64 cents. So there's 5 different exit reasons, but they're all a little different. And what I'm trying to say is, did you have something? What?
Yeah, I'll add to that too. Pay attention to reduced risk as well, because a lot of times, she's reducing the risk that's going against her, and she gets out, and they continue lower. As you can see it down there in the lower part of the screen.
19.
You had, look at down there at the bottom.
95. 23 to 105.
Yes.
So yeah, reduce risk and stop hit. Those are ones we might not want to mess with too much. But again, the profit save means, hey, this trade's working, but Holly's going to basically get out on the first pullback. It seems like that first jiggle that pulls back usually kind of triggers the profit save, and then it moves higher. Well, here's 3 perfect examples of that right now. So kind of keep that in mind going forward. The profit save is not really a super red flag warning like the reduced risk and stop hit is.
Exactly. And to add to Yuri's question about risk on and risk off, that's when you might want to consider, going a little more risk on, especially if he doesn't have the little graph we have of risk on, risk off on his screen there, but in other words, if the market's going in your favor, kind of like it was doing this morning at the open and for most of the day, and you see Holly get out on a profit save, well, listen, if the chart looks good and the market's going in your favor, hey, maybe it's better to stay risk on in that trade.
Let's take a look at this one again. Let's take a look at this one because again, like Andy's saying, look left, see what the bigger picture is. In this case, the bigger picture had some run, not bad, good reason to maybe stick around. That was HI. This same thing again. This one. Look at this little dish right here. This little cup and handle. This thing's popping on out of it. Kind of a nice void up here. Not a whole lot of resistance. And then the third profit save on the daily. Not much to really go on this one. We're kind of creating a megaphone pattern, so not as much excitement on the daily chart there. But still, nonetheless, these profit saves. And then at the end of the day, we did have a target hit. It was a short sale as the market was selling off quickly. For some reason, right about here, this thing decided to go ahead and take a pretty big dive. And we don't see it too often, but we love to see it, target hit. In this case, the power hour short, if we look on our top parent cheat sheet, the power hour short strategy is a 30-minute time stop, but it's also a $1 profit target. So the profit target was the reason that we got out of that one. Or that Holly exited that one, I should say. And that's basically what you saw at the end of the day there. It was a really nice quick move on those 3 power hour shorts. So That's all I really got for Holly today on the AI. I didn't really see much directional bias today. I thought I saw something at 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern, but then a couple of longs came out 5 minutes afterwards. So, nope, that's not really one to work on. But again, if I see like 5 or 6 shorts come out all at one time with no longs, pay attention to the direction of the market, because sometimes you can get some market direction as well. Okay. Anything else to add, or are we moving on?
No, I think we covered that pretty thoroughly.
INVN is the trade of the week, and I'm going to zoom way out. Now, let's talk about the trade of the week. At one time, we had CWEI as the trade of the week. You know, that had an interesting move to it. Yelp we had as a trade of the week. But what these things all have in common is that at one time, they were very much down on the year. And what we're trying to do is locate those levels of change. CWEI, which was a trade of the week back here, was called because of the short float was huge. And this type of trend change, if they can continue to move, those are the longer term trades that we're trying to look for the trade of the week. We're not trying to give you guys a day trade scalp. We're trying to find something that's a setup that's going to have, future potential. Now, let's go back to INVN because, again, it has that same trend change lubricant look. It's a stock that's been beat up. Here we go. Lower low, lower low. Now we got kind of a higher low, higher low. If you look at it, it's almost kind of like an inverted head and shoulders down here. Kind of messy, but that's what we got. So, going into the weekend, now again, all of these trades, they're derived from Trade Ideas technology or even, some of the Holly trades, but they are curated, through humans, through myself, Jamie, Andy, Dan, talk about them over the weekend. And one of the things that we mentioned was it's been a really nice ride here in the general market. What happens if we call a trade of the week and make it live on the open and then we get a nice couple of big red bars? Chances are that trade of the week's probably not going to work. So we need to talk a little bit about, strategy and entry. And so in this case, we're looking at the bigger picture right here. I believe the trade of the week, is going to be above these levels right here. And I've already got them in there. You can see there those red dashed lines. Now, what's going to happen if we can get a trade of the week to clear through that line? The trade of the week is on. If it never clears through that line, it's not. It might be this week. It might be next week. But if you guys have price alerts like I've set here, highly recommend using those price alerts. If you have other things that you use that can give you an alert, I'd recommend using that as well so you don't miss it. But what's going to happen is it's going to take out these levels. And then our very next stop is going to be that second red line. So it's almost like we've got, 2 levels to clear, but we're getting kind of a head start on the first one. I forgot what the short float. Not a real big short float, only 11% on this one. So that's not the real mainstay on this one. The real mainstay was mostly, that pattern. Just imprint on that pattern right there because, my friend Brian Shannon talks a lot about stocks and how they go through cycles. And there's, 5 stages of euphoria. Euphoria, disbelief, I can do nothing wrong. Okay, now I'm just going to buy the buyback. This is what I've talked about earlier. What worked so well back here, all of a sudden doesn't start to work so well over here. And now it becomes disbelief, and then capitulation, and then it turns into accumulation again, and then it starts all over, back and forth. And I probably messed up a couple of those, but Brian Shannon's a great follow. He can tell you more about the stages, 5 stages. So long story short, our trigger is still going to be the same from the email. And the trade is still live. If it triggers next week, so be it. But if we can get this thing to break above this little inverted head and shoulders down here and primarily get above this level right here, let me turn my crosshairs back on, which we're talking about 867 or 868, that's where it could really start to get interesting. So these are bigger picture type trades, guys. Just because sometimes they work right off the bat, it's really nice. But I just want to remind people here that this is these are not day trade ideas. These are longer term position trade ideas, and that's usually why the stops are down here very, very generous to allow for a lot of the back and forth. Because I'm not letting this determine what I think the stock is going to do. I'm letting this bigger picture determine what the stock's going to do. But I'm only going to get interested in it if it triggers this point. I mean, we very easily could have said buy INVN on the open, but we realized that the market could have been due for a pullback, and it's exactly what we got. So we're going to be patient and then wait for confirmation as well. All right.
A couple of things to add to that, Steve. First of all, it's a lagging semiconductor. If you pull up the SMHs, I think you'd see.
And what do they specialize in? Do you recall? Isn't there something they specialize in?
Yes, and I got to go back and search. I remember I was way back in the day. I was hot on this stock, and of course, it failed. But I think they are in the semiconductor.
They are in the semiconductor. I just wonder what their specialty
they do.
is.
I have to go back and look, but I try not to read too much fundamentally because just like you, I play the technicals. And what I do like about it is it's a beautiful upside down head and shoulders with
let me go back to that.
Shoulders squared off perfectly as right there. Look at the lows of the two shoulders there. So it does have a lot of potential there. Looks like it could be building a nice bottoming head and shoulders pattern. Which, by the way, if it does break that upside level that you talked, there's not a whole lot there, man. I think it has a huge potential.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I was going to bring this up for some reason. I can't recall what it was. Single stock window. Earnings are behind us. That escapes me. All right. So there's the trade of the week. Philosophy. Again, we're going for position longer term, trying to find the next Yelps, CWEIs, X, AKS. AKS was a trade of the week way back here when it was breaking its trends, and it's gone through some gyrations, but making higher highs and higher lows, and now we're up here, just much higher than it was when it was originally called out. Okay, where to next? Well, let's see. What's working and what's not working? Well, what's not working, in my opinion, still are shorts. And the way this particular market is, if they work, they don't work for very long. I actually tried back testing my horseshoes, and they're just kind of lackluster right now, which is not surprising because if you guys will notice, the AI has horseshoe up and horseshoe down strategy. These are the base strategies, and they're just not working that well right now. So that's why we have not seen them on the starting lineup as of late. So that's not really working that well. So I want to go back to bouncers. I talked about bouncers a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to just start by clicking on the bottom here, the first one that came out. These seem to work best in the first couple hours of the morning. Obviously a horrible close to the day, but what we're looking at here, and I'm going to really try and define so you guys can see what bouncers does. Look on the daily. On the daily, once the chart breaks down below yesterday's low, if it's able to fight its way and get back through that level, that's this thing right here, crossing above resistance. That's the algorithm, the event, the trade ideas is recognizing. But what we've got our filters set for is we want a very early look on this. And we want to use called the position and previous day's range to define where the hot spot is. So yesterday's previous day's range, 0 would have been the low, and 100 would have been yesterday's high. So once that alert triggers the crossed above resistance, we have a very early warning system here. The minimum is 1%, basically one tick off of yesterday's lows, and if it gets any more than 10% off of yesterday's lows, then the filter goes away. So that's why a lot of these orange lines that you're seeing, like, oh, I know what I did. I hate that. I hate when I do that. I left my configure window open. A lot of these orange lines that you see that I've drawn, you'll see they were again, contrarian type entries, just like the other one that we were talking about on support. Same kind of thing. Buying when your eyeball and your brain doesn't really feel like buying, but statistics are saying, this is a good deal. So on this one, had a pretty good move all day long and then got caught up into the end of the day. I see that. Let's look at FNB. Nice one. Again, on the daily chart. Very simple to see what's going on here. You see the price broke just below yesterday's lows, fought itself back above through, and then as soon as it went through with that 1 percentile level of yesterday's low, which isn't much, probably just 1 penny, there was our trigger. And it was a really nice reversal move back up, and then for the rest of the day had some nice alpha in that one. JCI, same thing. Let's look at the daily chart. Look, we broke just. This is what's happening to the people that are trying to short these stocks, guys. They're waiting for the stocks to break yesterday's lows and getting short and getting bounced right out of them. And we're playing the opposite of that, basically. Now, there will be a time when this isn't working as well as it is, but for now, it's still working. Look at this one. Let's look at the daily. very tight daily here on this one, HRB, but you can see that little wick took out yesterday's lows, no follow through, fought back through, and right back up. I mean, I can all day long I can kind of show you a lot of these and how these were working. Some of them didn't, and I want to find one that didn't work so we can so we can talk about what to do when it doesn't work. All right, so here's our candle, here's our line. Basically, this one just kind of went negative from the beginning. And so there really was never any real attempt to hang around even at this level. So at some point, you got to fish or cut bait on this one. I think I would have only given it maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the most. Probably, I mean, it's really going to depend on your risk tolerance. But noticing on all these other ones, you know, they all seem to kind of be in the money pretty quickly. They all seem to kind of be there and ready to go. But that particular one, which I forgot which one it was now, didn't really get going. So we also have to be able to manage the ones that don't work. Here, again, with some nice alpha, and then back to flat, and then we got to be able to manage these correctly. But in the morning, these things are generating some interesting stuff. Let's look at this one. Okay, so here was the tip of that wick right there. So we were basically buying right there, and we got below the orange line. We never really got below that orange line. Probably right here on that one candle that failed and wicked was probably, this is where Holly would basically say reduce risk, right, Andy? Mm-hmm. It's just not doing what we thought. Let's reduce the risk because this thing has not gotten above the orange line. Because when these things work, they get above that orange line usually, and they stay there. They don't dance around too much. So this is one of the things that is working. This was an interesting one. Had to come all the way back up before it triggered, and then it still did. Look at this, 86.23 to 87.48. There's some decent alpha for you.
That was the one that was in Holly. That's when Holly played.
That's right. That's correct. That's the one Holly. And she, once again, guys, risk off. Taking your money and run. Risk off worked better in that particular case. Mm-hmm. Let's see if I know this WCN worked out pretty well too. Let me just see once again. Yep. Take out yesterday's lows, tickle the stops, nothing's there, and bounce it right back up. So we're doing the exact opposite of what people are trying to do that are shorting things right now, and that's why shorting in this market just is not working. There's another one that's decent. Okay, and again, this is the same one we talked about earlier, kind of a reduced risk. Here was our entry right here, and we never really got positive. That one rejection wick, no thanks. Cut your losses, move on. So this is the bouncers. Guys, you'll notice that bouncers is also in Holly. Boom, here's Holly, the one we talked about today, one trade. And what's interesting, though, and it gives you a great example to show you what the AI does. Right-click here and look at configure, and we've got some filters going on. We've got some stuff going on. Now, if I were to actually break into the actual bouncers right here that Holly's using today, I'll bet you anything there's 3 full rows of filters. And because of that, the VRTX, which came through our bouncers alert, was the only one taken. Out of all of these trades today, VRTX was the only one that, for whatever reason, the AI saw a statistical advantage and triggered that particular trade. So it's a good visual here to show you what a base strategy can start with, but only one thing got picked out of there because of its back testing, and the filters all lined up for Holly, which are much more stringent filters than we have here. Did you want to add something?
No, you covered that. That very. I do want to add something to a comment that Reese made in here, and I think those guys. Thank you for your guys' input on INVN. But and Reese asked, it said no fundamentals for position or swing trades. Reese, I am more of a technical trader, and I'm pretty sure Steve is too. Now, when I am taking swing trades or position trades, I do glaze over the fundamentals. I like to look at like debt but I don't get too caught up in the earnings per share, and there's a reason. A lot of your earnings, first of all, they're old news, so you're looking at earnings that's in the rearview mirror, and what's projected in the future I don't trust. I think CEOs lies, earnings reports
you stole
lies.
it from me.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, you were going there. Yeah.
To me, I was going there. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I mean, footprints in the sand. Steve always talks about footprints in the sand, and a chart can tell me a lot more about the stock than some CEO
Or
you know,
CTO.
yeah, our CTO, yeah. So
Or insider.
very little fundamental
I've
research goes
never,
into
never, never,
pricing
never
trades.
based any of my trades off of what the insiders are doing. I mean, it's a
No.
backdrop, but I will take technicals over fundamentals 3-1 any
Hmm.
day. You're
Sure.
seeing the footprints in the sand. You're seeing the reality. You're seeing the masses react to what's going on in real time, and patterns do start to show up. So I will take technical patterns over what the fundamental, or the worst thing you can do is fall in love with the stock.
Right.
Oh my God, Elon Musk, he's so smart. I mean, he's so smart. Tesla's going to go to 900, and you get caught up in that, and before you know it, you bought Tesla after, everybody else has. You got to look at the technicals to find out, sure, it's a great company. I'm sure it'll be a great company, but these things can get ahead of themselves, and they can also get ahead of themselves on the downside. So what I see here again, yeah, is that Head and Shoulders inverted, higher lows. We've got basically a range right here and all the way to the range right here. And
Hmm.
I believe that this stock has worn its welcome after a huge downdraft. It's moving sideways and creating a base now.
Hmm.
So I don't want to pay too much attention to what the insiders are doing. I always want to know when earnings are. That's one thing for sure. I do like to see companies that don't have a lot of debt. That always helps sometimes, because then you're concerned about them, running up a stock and then pulling out a secondary on you.
Yep.
Don't like to see
Yeah,
that.
some of the basics are good to know. Like when the shippers were taking off, and I told when I told my brother to buy it, and my father-in-law, I'm saying, listen, this is a short-term move. These things are junk. They got billions of dollars in debt. I mean, yeah, just look at their revenues and then look at their debt, and you can get a real good sense. You don't have to really get into studying all the financials and balance sheets, and I tell you, yeah, you go a lot further just learning how to really read charts.
If you're not using a single stock window to get that basic information, that's really what it's designed for, as a backdrop to just kind of check off on things. That's what the default version looks like. But you can
Hmm.
go in and configure and add anything you want. Debt, EPS. If it's in there and we have it, you got it. Let's see. I don't think we have anything on insiders. Held by insiders. What do you know? Let's show that column.
Hmm. Sure.
Okay, where is held by insiders? Did I lose that? Let's go back. Oh, I did it on this one over here. Looks like there's no value, no data value in that one. I'll have to come back. Let me see if I can get it on this one. Uh, Insiders, held by insiders, show column. 13.26% held by insiders. Okay, so that's really, I guess, the most information we have. But I brought this up to show you, you guys, what do I look at quick? If I quickly identify on something and click on it, first thing I want to look at is what's the short float, when are the earnings. Now, right now, where is it right now? Is it a support level? Is it a resistance level? I'm looking at this volume 5 minutes. I'd like to see something above 200 or 300. If I'm looking at a support level or looking for a breakout and 5-minute volume's anemic at 50 or 60%, then it might pull me back a little bit. I do care about, like Andy said, companies that have stupid debt. That's not that bad,
No,
You
not at
see
all.
you see a billion in there, and I was okay. Wait a
Yeah.
minute, what's going on here? Um, what else do I like? Oh, average daily volume. I got to know what the average daily volume is, so I've got that in there as well. So anything you want to put in here, you can do it. I just kind of keep it kind of tucked up in the corner so I can always grab to what I want to see. How come one brought it up and the other didn't? That's a good question. I don't know. But the good news is that mine did bring it up, so the data is there. That's a good question. I'm not sure why it
Yeah,
didn't.
it's probably just the data from our source. Yeah.
Well, maybe it might have been on a different stock. Yes, that's why, because it was on spiders. That's
Oh,
why.
okay.
There's your answers. Okay, so there we go. I didn't save that, so let's go back and configure just so we know. Insiders. We know that this works. Go right to show column, and there's your insiders. So it was on an ETF earlier. Insiders don't hold those. All right, so where to go from here? That's what's been working. Shorts are certainly not working, and I believe this bouncers scan is taking advantage of the shorts that are not getting the follow-through to the downside. So let's go through and mark up a few charts, and we'll call it a day here. The first one, we haven't talked much about this recently, is the washout bounce, but we're going to talk a little bit about it today. There's really only one that I liked, and generally this comes, at the end of the day to see how they're looking and how they're closing at the end of the day. The one that I like the most is EPM. Okay, let's look at the intraday because there's two things going on here I want to highlight. EPM, once again, no, it's not that one. I'm sorry. It's P. Dang it. Which one was it? It's RBC. Thank you, Steve. RBC caught my eye. All right. Really nice daily chart, moving very much higher, but we just had a running of the stops, is what I call it when I see that hammer candle. Check off number one. This stock traded all the way down to here on the open. This is all the hall marks, the fingerprints, whatever you want to call it, of the negative feedback loop of HFT running out the stops. And so when I look at these daily charts and I see a washout bounce, the first checkoff I need to see is that all of the down and the up happened in the first 30 minutes. It happened in the first 15 minutes for that part. So good, check off. This was a bona fide HFT stop run, guaranteed. The second thing was it was holding close to highs all day. We got real close to highs, and I love it when they close near yesterday's close. So it was starting to look really good. But then we did get that little downdraft in the spiders, which kind of pulled RBC back down. But it's still interesting to me enough because it's moving higher on the daily chart here. And what I believe it did is I believe it just washed out all the weekend stops and bounced right back up. So the first alert I'm going to do is if it can take out today's highs here, I'm looking for this one to possibly move higher. So 72.46 on a washout bounce. I can change the price to 746. Remind myself this is a washout bounce, even though I can probably recognize that. And we'll see what goes on with that one. If we check our short float, there's not a whole lot going on here. It's not a short float play. It's just a washout bounce play. I love those long candles, hammers, especially in an uptrend, which basically probably wiped out a lot of these people that bought up here. All right. The next one, we're going to go down to a different scan, which is the trend change lubricant, like we talked about, how we pick the trade of the week, the things that are beaten up on the year. But these ones start to have more of a short float component that we get interested in. The first one is RH, Restoration Hardware. If you see my screen, you'll notice, all right, you'll notice Restoration Hardware has a 55 million share float. Excuse me, 55% of the float is short. The float is only 38 million shares, so a good half plus more of those are short. That is rocket fuel in potential energy. And again, this is that same looking chart that we talked about, kind of like the INVN chart, nothing really different, but this one has a huge short float potential, which could really propel this thing higher. All right. What is the washout bounce? We'll share that before the end. I'll give you the code for that. Don't worry. This particular one on Red Hat, I keep calling it Red Hat, Restoration Hardware, this really has my attention. 50% short of 38 million is a huge combination for more explosive upside. But what we actually have, like I showed earlier in the INVN, we've got the first level of resistance and then we've got this second level. I really believe that if we can take out this first level, we're going to challenge the second level, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to go ahead and mark it up. I've actually already marked it up, I believe. Let me do that. I want to make sure I have all the correct dates. So price alerts. Which one was this? RH. Did I do RH today? No, I did it way back then on the 22nd. This one's been working. I've been keeping my eye on this one for a while. So we'll delete that one. That one should be deleted. Why isn't it deleted? Is there another one in here? RH. That one's needs to be deleted too. Okay, so we're going to get rid of both those. We're going to go back and just take the high here. 37.51 is what our trigger price is going to be. And then here's where I really try and remind myself what I'm looking at. So when it pops up in real time, I know. Got 55% short. Got 38% million in the float. That's a recipe for a big short squeeze. I'm going to want to know if that goes higher. And then our next level of resistance would be here. That'd be a good problem to have, right? All right, so the next one is RMTI, which is on here. RMTI. You can see, I'm not quite sure, and again, this goes right into the fact I don't really know what happened, nor do I really care what happened. Maybe it was bad earnings, but the footprint in the sand and the herd is telling us that that was wrong, and a price rebalance has been coming, kind of like what the S&Ps have been doing lately. But what it did is it ran right smack into these levels right here, going sideways, which is what I want to see. Wouldn't mind even seeing that go sideways for another day or two. But I'm going to grab the high of these wicks here. 67, 64. Okay, so we'll go 68. Right click up to 68, create price alert for 68. And then this one we're starting to lose our shorts a little bit. RMTI is a trend change lubricant, but it's only got 21% short the float on 48 million. Not quite as much. Fred, not only do I like the name, I like, again, what we got going on down here, kind of a little inverted head and shoulders again. That's probably the down and the back up. That might be it for a while. So this one's got 11% short. We're starting to get into the not so significant level of short. 15% or higher, I think, is more significant. But I'm still going to draw a line above this high right here because I think this could be a good one too. What is that? 995. All right, we'll go 996. And this one's only 11% short, nothing special. And then the last one from this particular setup is GTN. Had a really nice recovery off that bounce back. We call these V bottoms. But I think we really need to hit and clear this one little wick right here, which going back also corresponds to the top of this candle right here. So these two levels have some pretty good resistance. So if we can get above there, I'm going to be interested. But the short float's not huge, and I'm going to remind myself of that so I don't put that too much into the equation. 10, 10, so we're going to go 10, 11, make that the last of our trend changes. Very small short float, only, what did I say it was? 7%? 7% PCL. All right. I've got two more from you, and we're going to go back to the short squeeze plays. For that, I'm going to use the one that I've been talking a lot about, Squeeze Me, where we can take these and put them into a category that says, show me the ones that are 85 percentile or higher off of their lows. So in other words, all these stocks are basically about 15% away from the 52-week high. And I've already gone through a few of these that I like. The first one is NXST, so let's double click on that. Let's get the real big picture here because the intraday is not so important. This is kind of interesting. Basically, there we go. Aside from this one little anomaly right here, most of the resistance in this stock has been at these areas. So I'm just going to kind of draw a light general idea there. Okay, so that's pretty much all-time highs above there. You know, it's not a 52-week high, it's all-time highs. And these people that are short this stock are 33% of 30 million, which is a pretty significant number in my mind. And what we got going on here is kind of the bull flag. So I'd want to get a head start. If the price is going to move back above this wick right here, I feel like it's going to make another assault back, and I think I want to be early on something like this. So I'll grab the high of that candle, 60. We'll just go 60.01. And this one has 33% short on what I say, 33 million, 30 million, 30 million float. Okay, so keep an eye on that one because I would not want to be a short seller if this thing breaks out of the flag and starts challenging all-time highs. That would be basically a short seller's nightmare. The last one's going to be AEO, and what I like about this is both Andy and I saw it individually. We both saw it, so two minds think alike. Really definitive level here. Going back, once again, we have kind of an anomaly above this level, and then so it's not an all-time high. It's basically a 52-week high that we're looking at. So the orange line I just drew to show you here, 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 and here. That's pretty much our level of resistance. So I'm just going to use this wick right here and go 1903. We'll just do it right here, 1903. And this one would be a 52-week high on how much? I forgot what the short was on that one.
27.
too late.
27. Oh, never mind.
I'll go back and add it. Um,
While he's doing that, guys, I will say that I noticed on my option play magic today at the close, this was only like the last hour, this was doing
right
incredible
here.
option, and it closed on highs, so yeah, it was doing like 1,200% its normal option volume for the day, and it all happened at the close, so keep an eye on that, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to drop a couple of scans in here real quick. The first one is the washout bounce. And there's the cloud for washout bounce. The second one is going to be history. I'm sorry, let's take history off, but real time. And this is going to be bouncers. So let me share bouncers with you guys. I'll label it as such. All right, and then the last thing I'll do is grab the 7 price alerts that we created and make a cloud link for those. What was the last one? AEO. I wanted to edit that one. And it was how much? 33%?
27.
27%. Sure. Okay. All right, so let's do this. These look to be the ones that we have done today, the 29th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, why do I have more in there? There's more in there than I want. I am going to delete the ones that I don't want to include. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to start right here at RBC, and these are the ones that we've all worked on today. So we'll go ahead and share those 7 selected alerts, copy all, and I'll just drop that into the window. And so if you have the price alerts functionality, you can save, you can use that cloud and load that cloud, and you'd be good to go. Can you provide the cloud link for support 3.0? I don't have that. I don't know what support 3.0 is. If it's a Holly strategy, I certainly don't have that one. If you got that from somebody else or heard that from somebody else, you could email IT. You could email info@trade-ideas.com, and if somebody recognizes that, they'd be happy to share it with you. Do you know if short interest is updated to yesterday's close? Okay, that's a good question. Short interest is kind of loosey-goosey. It's reported twice a month and sent to the SEC. NASDAQ also keeps a good track of theirs. But as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, it's a 2-week report. It comes out every 2 weeks. So it's not a very fresh indicator. However, unless the stock's ripping straight up, it's not working off a lot of that short float. So you usually don't see too much of a difference between the 2-week measures. And that's what you can see also, short float, 27, short growth. This number right here, 5.69, basically says that this number grew 5.69% from the last time that it was reported, I believe. All right.
In fact, I typed 2 weeks in there, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to check with you first. That does sound right, every 2 weeks.
All right, guys. So anything you want is in the chat window. Appreciate the time. If you have any questions, you can email myself, Steve at Trade-Ideas, and appreciate the great feedback. The last one is not correct. Which one's the last one? What are we talking about? Oh, the last one was not correct. The short growth? Well, let's do this. Let's do this. Watch. Just because it's something we can do. Short growth. Highlight. Help. Short growth. The short growth is a percentage that compares the current number of shares short to the number of shares short the prior month. There you go. All right, guys. That's enough. Let's turn it over to Scott, who's got some ideas to help give you guys some savings on the promo codes, especially if you haven't tried Trade Ideas yet. Scott, let me bring up the slide for you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's always a good time to try Trade Ideas after a webinar because we like to thank people by giving them a reason to go ahead and hop on board. So the discount, Holly Alpha, it's all caps, just like you see on the screen. You can also get that by clicking on the Handouts panel in your GoToWebinar interface. There's a little plus sign next to where it says Handouts. If you click on that, there will be a link where you can download the PDF. That includes this code, also some important contact info. So that code when you enter that on checkout, when you go to trade-ideas.com/price, that takes 15% off your first year or month of premium. So you save a big amount off that $1,888, take 15% off of that, lock that in for the year. And like all of our subscriptions, monthly, annual, standard, or premium, all come with a full hour of one-on-one training. If you just go to our training section after you sign up and pick the best time and date for that, you can also get additional training sessions if you decide to, or tune into the trading room. The trading room's live every day during trading hours. So the premium version gets you the full access to our back testing module, the odds maker, and very importantly, Holly, the AI. Also, shareable price alerts in our advanced windows like RBI and GBI windows. Standard's a great way to start, though. If you just want to get your toes wet with the monthly standard, then upgrade to premium. Just go ahead and do that. That same code will take 10% off the first month or year of standard. So if you have any questions, just shoot us an email. info@trade-ideas.com is the best catch-all email for everything, including technical questions. That gets routed to our help desk software and sent to the appropriate team member. You can also contact Steve or Andy directly by emailing steve@trade-ideas.com, or Andy@trade-ideas.com. We have a phone number you can call if you have questions about your subscription, or follow us on Facebook, Trade Ideas Pro on Facebook. Follow Steve @TodayTrader on Twitter. Trade Ideas 1 is Dan Merkin on Twitter. We've got some other Twitter handles too. So thanks, everyone. We'll get a recording of this up later tonight or tomorrow morning, and everyone will get an email with a reminder of where to find that once the recording is up on YouTube. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Andy. Just a reminder to everyone, there's a webinar tomorrow that you get invitations for today, and a reminder tomorrow, so please show up to that one if you'd like some more helpful information. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.